Hello, friends. Ted Wilcox here again to bring you into another thrilling chapter in our continuing saga of magic, mystery, and the American century. But before we begin, here's Charlie Pulcher with a brief review of our last episode.
Last time, Mickey tracked Hallie Baptiste's abduction to a hidden witness deep in the Tenderloin, a frightened halfling named Greta Rose Petunia Abigail Joshua Norton II, and a half. From her trash-filled refuge, Greta revealed what she'd seen that night. Two hunters on motorcycles cornering a terrified couple in Joshua Norton Park. A man transforming into a beast to protect Hallie, and something monstrous answering him in kind. The hunters killed the man, took Hallie, and vanished into the night. But Greta's story held something even stranger. A silent, corpse-like figure in a tuxedo, appearing from nowhere and guiding her to the perfect vantage point before the attack ever began. And as whispers of gods and monsters begin circling the case, Mickey now follows a new danger moving through the city. What happens next? We'll find out now.
This is the Mythic Chronicles. Entry 1. Crime Wave.
Chapter 22. Mickey goes to the mechanic. October 25th, 1951. Mickey's pulse hammered in her ears. Fear and adrenaline made the air smell wrong, like copper and grave dirt, and the park's silence felt pressurized, like something was still listening. A decade of facing the worst the world had to offer had left her jaded about most things scary. She'd fought monsters, seen things that broke other people. But some things were simply worse than others. And that thing back there definitely fell into that category. Most people, for one reason or another, avoided prolonged eye contact. But any hunter worth their salt knew the eyes weren't just pretty sensory organs. They were the first place magic surfaced. A flare of light, a shifting color, a flicker of something not quite human. Watch the eyes, and you caught not only insight, you got an early warning. Hunters who lived long enough to be called experienced did so for one reason. They always, always, always watched the eyes. But sometimes, on rare occasions, if she held long enough, Mickey saw something more. Something she called a glimpse. It wasn't just about piercing glamours. She already had true sight for that, and tools and spells could manage the rest. This was different, deeper. A direct look into someone's essence, who they were, what they wanted, how far they'd go to get it. The truth. Capital T. But like most unconventional magic, it came without pattern, without warning. She couldn't trigger it, couldn't control it. It simply happened. And it hadn't happened in years. That's why she was caught off guard when, watching that thing's eyes shift from vibrant violet to unsettling periwinkle, she glimpsed. One moment, she was in the overgrown park, sizing up the probably not a man. The next, her mind was yanked through a straw. Claustrophobia slammed into her. It was like being trapped in a pitch-black tunnel, lungs squeezed dry, and panic surged as, for one awful second, she thought she'd die alone, swallowed by the dark. Then her vision cleared, and she understood. She was glimpsing. Suddenly she could breathe again. She doubled over, gasping, though she didn't actually need the oxygen. Blinking, she saw she stood on a glass platform suspended high above a roiling sea of black. Straightening, she squinted into the chaos as wind howled past. Darkness whipped around her like a sandstorm. She turned toward the only source of light, a lone island, surrounded by crashing black waves. At its center stood a castle of old stone and dark wood, straight out of feudal Japan. She stared, stunned. The storm wasn't just around it. It was attacking it. Shadows hurled themselves at the walls with relentless fury, shaping into claws and hammers that pounded again and again, battering the structure without pause. She watched, transfixed, unable to tear her eyes from the scene as the wind shrieked around her. Then the platform lurches beneath her. She staggered, arms pinwheeling, one foot slipping toward the edge. Her gaze dropped, and her breath caught. Beneath the glass, within the storm-churned sea, something moved, stirring, rising, massive, fast. Too fast to understand, too big to fight. And in the heartbeat before the colossus shattered the platform and swallowed her whole, she blinked, and the glimpse ended. Mickey was back in the park. Everything she'd seen had happened in the span of a single blink. Her knees nearly buckled as the whiplash hit. Her heart pounded, her stomach lurched. The world spun in a rush of vertigo and cold, raw fear. It tipped its hat and smiled, and she barely managed to avoid trembling. Her glimpses were never the same twice, and never straightforward. But this one had been clear. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't just filled with darkness. It was darkness. A void. Endless. Starving. Ancient. Drenched in power she was unable to grasp. A monster. And it was, without question, absolutely, positively, out of her league. It had taken everything she had not to reach for her weapon, not to bolt, not to let the fear show as she stepped aside. "I insist," she'd said. And the thing had tipped its cap again and walked on. Fear surged, tightening her muscles. Her hands hovered near her weapons, but she didn't move, didn't turn. She stood, afraid any movement would betray her terror. It passed within a yard. Still, she didn't flinch. The thing glanced at her, and she held her breath. But it looked away, passed right by. Then, just before it vanished from view, she realized the glimpse had cracked something open. She could see beneath its veneer. Saw it had something more than a shadow trailing behind. Too dark, too slow. An echo of darkness, slithering in its wake. The darkness trailing behind paused, turned, and opened its eyes. Slitted violet orbs blinked once as they locked onto her. Gooseflesh rippled across her skin, but she kept her face neutral. By the 9, what kind of shadow had eyes? Her hand twitched, but then the shadow turned as well, and it was gone. Only when it was far enough away did she turn and continue toward the park's edge. "Bullet?" she muttered. There was no immediate answer. A cold weight settled in her gut. She glanced over her shoulder. She saw nothing obvious, but of course, in a place like this, that meant nothing. After a few beats, she tried again. "Bullet?" Her hair stirred, though the air was still. She spun, gun raised. "Boss, it's me!" Bullet yelped. She exhaled sharply, releasing her anima as she shoved the weapon back into her bomber. "God's damn it, Bullet. You nearly gave me a heart attack." "Sorry, boss. Mr. Scary looked like he might turn back, so I followed. Wanted to make sure he wasn't up to anything dastardly. And? He wasn't. Left the park a moment ago." She let out a slow breath, holstering the gun inside her jacket. "We alone?" A moment passed before... "Yup." "Good. You were right. That thing's bad news." "Yeah, well, if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, but smells like murder and mayhem, it's probably not a duck," Bullet said. "Though," he added, "come to think of it, that might be wrong. Ducks are vicious little bastards. This one time, I was minding my own business, and this ornery little quacker..." "Why do you think it was here?" she cut in, smiling despite herself. Could have been hunting. Good spot for it, plenty of cover. But why let you go?" Mickey frowned. That same question had been gnawing at her. "A lone woman in the woods should have been irresistible," she said. "Like a bloody steak to a starving dog. But maybe he was already full," Bullet offered. "Just walking off the meal. He did have that cat who ate the mouse kind of look." Cats. "Hey, weren't we supposed to get breakfast?" Mickey rolled her eyes. "More like a rabid wolf. That thing's one step away from frothing madness, and I walked right up to it." totally unprepared. What am I, new? No, you're a salty, grizzled, mean old war dog with the hideous scars to prove it. Mickey pumped a fist. Damn right. So what now, boss? We goin' not duck hunting? I'm thinking Mr. Scary could use an introduction to Kara. She considered, then shook her head. Nah, we've got enough on our plate without ordering off menu. At the edge of the park, she slowed. Tell you what, she said, fishing for her keys. You keep an eye on Mr. Scary. Don't take any chances. Stay distant. But if he does anything monstery, you let me know. Her gaze hardened. Then we'll let Kara give her 2 cents. Sound good? Her hair fluttered, soft as breath, as Bullet hesitated. You sure, boss? Someone already took a shot at you. If I'm not around, who's watching you back? Mickey smiled, small and tired, but shook her head. That's sweet. But I'll be fine. There's nowhere in this city safer than Fleischberg's. Another ripple tugged at her hair. Okay, Bullet said. But only if you promise to go straight there. No stops. And stay put till I get back. She rolled her eyes, placed a hand over her heart, and raised 3 fingers. All right, Bullet. I promise to go straight to Rosie's and not leave until you get back. Scout's honor. Satisfied, you damned worrywart? Unquestionably, he replied, cheerful as ever. Mickey nodded. Good. Now get out of here, will you? That thing's probably halfway to Los Angeles by now. One last flutter of wind tugged at her hair, before stillness settled across her shoulders like a weight. She sighed, already regretting sending him away. Bullet had become so constant, so ever-present, she sometimes forgot what real silence felt like. Now, without him, the quiet pressed in, and the memory of her glimpse hit again. The storm of darkness. She'd felt its hunger, its need, and a shiver crept up her spine. Not only did her glimpses scare the living hell out of her, they left something behind. Scars on her psyche. And this one had done more than scar. It had unearthed something. Something she'd buried years ago. She'd felt that kind of darkness, that need, before. During the war. The air suddenly felt tight, heavy, like a noose closing around her throat. She hurried the last few paces to the Super Deluxe. She was vulnerable, exposed. She needed to be inside. Somewhere with doors, locks, protections. She flinched as a school bell rang behind her and turned to see a playground buzzing with laughter. Kids no older than 7 burst from the school, clambering over jungle gyms behind a chain-link fence. She stared longer than she should have, then forced herself to move. Calmly, mechanically, she climbed into the car and locked the doors. The laughter dulled to a muffled echo, replaced by the quick beat of her pulse, threaded with whispers and the occasional phantom screech. Her breath hitched. Her hands shook. And somewhere, deep inside, something cracked. Memories rushed in like floodwaters. She'd tried, gods, she'd tried to bury them. But like corpses in shallow graves, they always rose when it rained. She fumbled through her purse with trembling fingers, found a cigarette, lit it on the 3rd try. Even that familiar ritual barely slowed her pulse. A mission gone wrong. A bridge. The screech of a train. A glimpse into a realm of hate and need. The cigarette slipped from her fingers. She grabbed the steering wheel, tried to shut it out. The shrieks of the undead. The utter silence of the dead. She gripped so hard, her knuckles ached. What in all the hells am I doing here? She whispered. It was too much. She'd already been surprised, was nearly gunned down by rogue, government-protected vampires. And now, actual gods were meddling in her case. She wasn't good enough. She was never good enough. Yet, here I am, still alive. And why is that? Because, she whispered, because I'm a coward. She wiped her nose with the back of her hand. She should leave. The lament might grant an extension, They'd add to the debt, but they'd want her alive. She could still walk away. She would walk away. But first, she needed a drink. Something to shove the memories back into their graves, to chase away the doubt, the weakness. She groped for the bottle in the back seat and touched paper. She yanked it forward, ready to toss it, then paused. It was the articles Maggie Pomponio had given her, had worked so hard to collect. And clipped to them was a note. Miss McFinn, there are actual monsters out there. Thanks to you, I know we'll get them. Maggie. Another piece of paper slid to the floor. She looked down to see another note written by Maggie. The message was simple, hastily written, containing 6 names. Rose Buffet, Dorothy Alcantara, Alice Suena, Elsa Sierva, Merida Tejan, Hallie Baptiste. They hit like a punch to the heart. 6 missing women. 6 innocents still missing, with no one else looking for them except a blubbering mess behind the wheel of a battered Ford Super Deluxe. Mickey swallowed hard. Cracking like an egg now wouldn't help anyone. It would only give the monsters more time. More opportunities. Gods damn it, she muttered, wiping her face with her sleeve. Don't think I don't see what you're doing. She inhaled slowly, corralled the stampede of memories, and shoved them back in their box. She turned the key in the ignition. And hells, if all else fails, she thought, maybe this time, you'll get your wish.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Mythic Chronicles. The story continues every Tuesday and Thursday. If you're enjoying the journey, please consider rating and reviewing the podcast. Your words might help bring more mythics into the fold. To listen ahead, unlock bonus content, and gain access to VIP Discord roles and behind-the-scenes updates, check out our Patreon or visit us at SeanTLaffertyBooks.com. I'm Sean. Thanks again for being here.